He's Blake Sebring. I'm Glenn Marini. We're here inside the zone trying to think of interesting topics this week. Not a whole lot out there. It's kind of funny to kind of think about it, but they do take 2 or 3, which is a good thing.
Well, like I said in today's story, this is a weekend where you grind through. I mean, it really was. They played well enough Friday night to win, and that was good to break the 2-game losing streak. And then you go to Toledo and you get robbed at the end. And then you go to Kalamazoo and you play with 4 defensemen the most of the game, you still win 6-2. So pretty good.
I have a question. I'm just going to throw it right out there, especially right off the top.
Well, thanks for the warning.
Yeah. Is this a team that can win an ECHL championship in your eyes?
Yes. I plan on working on the Komets till mid-June. I really do. And not that I'm predicting that or anything like that, but I got to prepare. You know, mentally, I got to think about what stories I want to write, that kind of thing. I'm trying to prepare that way. Yes.
What makes you think that this could be a championship team?
Okay, the goaltending is there, especially when Spencer Martin comes back too. San Antonio's not going to make the playoffs, so you're going to get back guys like Garrett Thompson and Alex Belzile and maybe a couple other guys by the end of it too. Okay, you've already got a really good solid core. You need a little bit of tweak in the defense, a little bit of tweak in the forwards, just a tad. But you'll be able to do that when you get all those guys back. Now, everything else is a crapshoot from there. Because, like I said last year to the season, I'm not a big believer in the regular season predicting anything in the playoffs because it changes everything. Because you don't even know who you're going against. You could be going against the team that has Indy Fuel on the front or Cincinnati Cyclones, but that may not be the team you faced all year.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. I mean, the fact that they're in first place, and they're going to have home ice probably for the first round, maybe the second round if they're lucky. You know, I mean, that's a good thing because it helps cut down on travel more than anything. But it really doesn't mean a thing. I mean, it just doesn't.
So you are predicting
no.
I said you are saying we are
I am not predicting. I am preparing for.
I'm sending money to Vegas,
Yeah,
Western Union, wiring it out to make a bet.
Emily, you know what your husband just is going to do? I don't think you want him to do that.
College savings plan out the window. All the money is based on your prediction that the Komets could win.
I think they could win. Yeah, I think they do have, and I think the mindset from last year really helps too. The fact that you went out and got Jamie Shasma and Jordan Southorn and some of those guys who are, you know, like I said at the start of the year, everything they signed was, the first thing out of Gary's mouth was, yeah, this guy's a great playoff history too. You know, I mean, that was really something that they focused on all summer when they were recruiting, and that's when it would pay off.
The first game of this past week that we got a chance to see, the only home game that we got a chance to see, Friday night against Cincinnati. They come out, play well in the first period. Mike Embach gets a couple of goals. He looked pretty sharp. What is it about what you saw in that first period that maybe translated throughout the rest of the weekend? And as you continuing to think positive things, not only about the Komets, but about the way Mike has played so far this season? Well,
we talked last week about how we really wanted to see them come out and get off to a good start, and they did. I mean, not just the goals, though. It was the way they were playing. They were kind of patchy in spots, but they were playing well enough that they dictated terms at home early. And usually the way it works is they kind of, I don't want to mean float, but they're even during the first period, and then they turn it up in the second. This week, they turned it up in the first, which they had not been doing, as we talked about, and that was good to see.
Trevor Cheeks, you never know how long he's going to stay here. You never know how long anyone's going to stay here, especially when they play well.
Right.
But Trevor Cheeks, what does his return mean for this Komets team?
Well, it makes you 20% better at center. It makes you that much better up the middle. Now, if you can get Alex Belzile back too, which the way he's playing in San Antonio, you don't know, and same with Garrett Thompson. You know, they're finally getting to the point where you go get Joe Perry, you get Nikita Kościerski. Those are 2 really good parts. But are they first-line guys, second-line guys, or third-line guys? And if you get everybody back at one point, wow, you've got some really tough decisions to make. And suddenly, your third line's a lot more like your second and your first line, and you've got a lot more balance and a lot more options. Because you look at how much bigger they are with Perry, Montgomery, Thompson up front. You know, I mean, and Belzile, he kind of plays big. He plays with an attitude, that's for sure. You know, I mean, you've got some pieces that are steps up. The kind of guys who can make other guys better and push other guys too.
Well, we've talked a lot about what they have up front and the depth, especially when everybody returns. Defensemen, where are they? Because you mentioned they played essentially with 4 on Saturday night. Where are they in terms of depth, in terms of injury, in terms of what you need to see going forward? Because I think in the postseason last year, that was the thing we wondered about. A lot of last season, we wondered how would they stand up on the back end.
Right. And I think they're better. Now, on paper, they're significantly better than they were last year in the playoffs. On paper. Now, playing together, early in the year, they were not better at all. They were not good. But one thing I really, really like of late is I think Cody Sull's been playing really well. And why is he playing so much better? Well, you'll see some things later on this week about why his head's in a different spot now. But also because he and Will Weber, who are not two guys you would necessarily think would make a great pairing, have really made a really good pairing. I mean, they're really good together. They just seem to relax with each other, and they know what each other's going to do, that kind of thing. Mason Geertsen coming down from San Antonio. He's only 20 years old, but he's another big, big body who's not afraid of anything and really adds some size and beef and toughness on the back line. Now, Drew Daniels is sick. He didn't make the trip to Brampton. Will Weber's got a hip injury. He's not making the trip. Jordan Southorn is making the trip. He's also got a hip dinger. But they're going to play with 5 defensemen tomorrow, which can work and it can be trouble. It really worked, like we said, Sunday in Kalamazoo. And Saturday night in
Toledo,
it was kind of tough too, a little bit. But it can work because Randy Cure's got a chance to play, and he'll do fine. It just, they need to get to the point, and they may never get to the point, like you and I were talking before the show. Right from here on in, after Saturday's game against Quad City, they go forever 4 games in 5 days, 4 games a week, every week from here on out. And it's going to be a killer. So they're going to need that depth. They have a lot more depth than they had last year. It's going to be interesting to see how healthy they can be and if they can keep those pairings solid.
That led to my next question because you mentioned it. Tuesday they're at Brampton in an 11 a.m. game. Don't play again until Saturday. Those are their only 2 games this week. But you're going to have 3-4 game weeks basically from here on out. So if you're the Komets, how do you use this week to prepare for a stretch that you know is going to be grueling once you get out of this week? I mean, is there anything special you do? You get extra rest?
I think
you try to
healthy.
Rotate more guys in?
I think you get healthy.
Yeah.
You can't rotate more guys in on a 20-man roster. That's all there is to it. I mean, you're stuck. And you got to worry about the salary cap, too. So it's not like you can go sign 2 guys for, oh, we're going to play you and give these guys a rest. You really can't. So you have to give them the rest between games. Maybe you only skate for 45 minutes instead of an hour and a half practice. Maybe you just tighten it up that way. Maybe do more video sessions, that kind of thing, just to keep them fresh.
And do you think as a head coach, Gary has gotten more, not that he wasn't in touch before, but in touch with what exactly the players' bodies demand at this point?
No, I think he's always been fairly in touch. Shaffy's really good about saying something if he thinks they're overtired, and I'm sure Shaftsma's, not afraid to go in there and say, hey, we could use a day, or maybe instead of having a real practice, you do something fun. You just do something that's loose and just gets them going and do that instead. Anything, it's not the physical stuff as much as the mental stuff. Because, they come home, Saturday's their second home game in 32 days, essentially. Because you got 4 more road games next week, Saturday's game is important. It's not that important, you want to emphasize it, but you don't want to kill them in that preparing for that Saturday game. Right. So they got nothing left next week because there's so little time to recover from here on out. That trip to Alaska is going to be a killer because you go to Colorado, Rapid City twice, back to Colorado, to Alaska for 3, and then you come home and you got to drive to Evansville on a Thursday.
Yikes.
If you're going to bet against the Komets at all this year, that would be the game to bet against because you've got jet lag, you've got getting back into the family life after 2 weeks, you've got injuries, everybody's tired, you've got everything, That would be that trip is hard enough. Adding that Evansville game in there makes it 25% harder, I think.
We've done a lot of looking forward. Just one quick look back. 10 wins now that the month of January is wrapped up. And it wasn't an easy schedule. We always talk about in January when Circus is in town, you play a lot of games on the road if you're the Komets and the Mad Ants. But going 10-4 in the month of January, looking back, 10-win months are not easy to come by.
No.
what has impressed you the most and what allowed them to have that kind of success when, as I mentioned, a lot of it's done away from the Coliseum?
Well, it's Pat Nagelman defense. And Pat gets the majority of the credit for that, deservedly so. But his defense is playing really well in front of him. I mean, they're making sure he can see. I mean, they're using their size to keep. They're not clearing the front of the net because nobody's getting to the front of the net, and that's big because they're blocking so many shots too. The penalty kill is just astonishing. 67 or 66 out of the last 67 kills over 20 games. That's insane. They've got like 20 more power play goals than the one they've given up. That's just crazy. 20 games or 20 goals over a 20-game period, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
Also good to see because we knew they made that a focus in the offseason.
Yeah.
Gary made it a priority, and whatever scouting he did, whatever he looked at, whatever game plan, it's definitely worked.
Well, they finally bought into Shaffy's formula of short passes. Don't go for the long passes. Just get in, set up, short, bang, bang, keep it moving. Keep the defense moving. So it opens holes eventually. And what I've been noticing a lot is they've had a series of power play times where they've had the same defensive four out there for the whole kill because they can't get off the ice because the Komets have done such a good job of controlling the puck, getting the rebounds, that kind of thing.
Final question, what are you most looking forward to this week, which is, as we've talked about, a kind of an odd schedule?
Well, I kind of look at Tuesday, tomorrow morning, I kind of look at that as a game where you might ask your goalie to steal one for you. You got 5D, Southie, how healthy is he? You might have 4.5 essentially. That might be a game they need to score 5 to win. But I kind of asked Pat, I need you on this one. I haven't really had to say that, to him specifically, but I need you. I really need you to come up big on this one.
All right, definitely a lot to look forward to this week, only with 2 games, but could be very telling going forward, considering how much they're going to be playing in the next few weeks.
4 road games next week again.
It is going to be fierce. Well, for Blake, I'm Glenn, and we'll see you next Monday right here on Inside the Zone.